Hello, this is David from DN Cognitive Counseling. How did it feel to be the least favorite child in your family? How did it feel when your brother or sister got preferential treatment? How did it feel when everybody was touting how wonderful somebody else in the family was and you weren't getting that attention or positive affirmations back or the same way? One of the things I'd like to talk about in this video is what happens when people feel things are unfair and the resentments that build. What creates that? One of the things that is a great contributor is something called selective enforcement. When you have two people who are treated differently for whatever reason, and it doesn't make a difference what the reason is, it's going to breed certain emotions. Right now in New York City, there's a situation going on in the area of Williamsburg. And I want to get into some of this just to illustrate the points and explain, hopefully, why there's so much anger and rage over something that looks so trivial. So let's get straight to it.
In New York City, where 10 times as many people have died as the next most devastated city, there are charges of a double standard when it comes to enforcing social distancing regulations. Amber Cagliano reports.
New York Mayor Bill de Blasio is under fire today after police broke up a funeral where thousands of Hasidic Jews mourned a rabbi who died from COVID-19. I went there myself to ensure that the crowd was dispersed, the mayor tweeted. My message to the Jewish community and all communities is this simple. The time for warnings has passed. Community leaders say de Blasio singled out Jews but did not criticize the crowd who watched that spectacular flyby to honor frontline workers. One posted, "I am appalled that the mayor would single us out and sanction us being picked on. This is disgusting and despicable." De Blasio is warning there's more crackdown to come.
The next gathering will be met by summonses and arrests, period. No more warnings. And that's true in every community.
And the NYPD is vowing to break up the shocking shantytowns that have sprouted on the subways.
So let's take a look at that for a second, and let's think about it. What's going on? What's causing the issue? De Blasio says we're very upset because of this gathering that took place. And the people of that community are very upset because somebody that was very dear to them and had a very strong emotional connection died. The sad part is the very thing that the city was trying to protect them from is the very thing that person died from. Technically, I absolutely agree with the mayor in terms of saying to the community that you need to be in an issue of safety because we are talking about a lot of people that have died. So I'm not stating that somehow that this community is correct and belongs being outside and it's a wonderful thing that they're doing. But what I'm trying to explain is what creates the anger. When they see that people were allowed to gather not only for the Blue Angels, as you saw, but there was also that boat that came in that Trump sent to New York, that white naval boat for the hospital, and there were large gatherings there as well, and not a word came out. That does not mean that de Blasio was wrong in the mindset to not have crowds. But because he did not speak up equally and say, I will not tolerate this crowd here, and I will not tolerate this crowd here, it becomes problematic. What makes it worse is what happened afterwards. George Floyd, murdered, horrible. But all of a sudden, the need for social distancing literally went out the window. And I want you to hear this.
Explain the disparity between protests allowed to go forward with no social distancing, yet those gathering outside bars or restaurants cannot do that.
Juliet, I understand when people ask that, and I think we just have to keep in perspective history. We're seeing a social movement growing before our very eyes that's addressing 400 years of oppressive reality in this country, 400 years of structural racism, and demanding a change in the reality of how we police and how we in our whole society address equality and get rid of all of the things that are part of structural inequality. And this movement has developed organically. It's huge, it's urgent. You have to recognize a historical moment and allow some space. And now we see that people have made their voices heard. Change is happening. It's happened in Albany. It's happening here in this city. I think a lot of people are seeing it and are acting accordingly and respecting the fact that their voices were heard. So that's a very, very different reality than people going to a bar or restaurant to pick up a drink or pick up food and knowing that for months and months the rule has been get your food and go home. So we're going to keep educating.
De Blasio, again, very correctly points out the anger and the frustration that people have with their lives being totally turned upside down by police brutality and not understanding about systematic racism, and emotionally how tied they are to that. And he's absolutely correct. There are a lot of people who are emotionally very tied to their businesses that they spent their entire lives making. Their family struggling for food. Their family struggling to put the next bills that they're going to have to pay. The nature by which when you say they're very upset, therefore you have to understand and back away. But for you, who's very upset, whatever you're upset about, be it your rabbi died, that we're not going to go ahead and allow. Again, becomes problematic. I, again, err on the side of being safe. I don't want to be outside. I haven't gone outside. And I don't plan on going outside almost anytime soon until this is either under control, because we see a spike in 14 states, and I'm worried about another spike again, or that I see that it is gone, or there's some sort of vaccine. But we have a situation that's really dangerous with literally over 120,000 people dead. That number is astronomical. But the issue here is what is created when we selectively enforce rules based upon what we perceive to be this idea of fairness. So it's when I decide what's fair for you or not. It would be something else if you would have said, listen, our recommendation is you stay inside. But if you are that emotionally tied to something or you feel that strongly, then that's on you and you're taking your life into your own hands. And if that was the position of the state and the city, okay. But when you say, no, we're not, but we're only going to threaten you, but anybody else that does it, well, we have to understand them. That's like saying to your little brother, he gets to hit you, but you don't get to hit back. And what does that breed to the older brother? What does that create in family dynamics? It creates anger, and it creates a system where people feel it's unfair. And that's what we're seeing and starting to brew as we go to the next part.
Can't close the park. The police officers yesterday, Chief Schultz told you not to close it because all the other parks are open. You close 14 and 86th Street, 8th Avenue and 65th Street, you can close it. But you're not going to close this park. This park is our park. There's no court order. You have to show me a court order to close this park. That's the law. If you don't show me a court order, then you can't close the park legally. You're breaking the law. You're breaking the law. I have no problem. I'll call the police and I'll ask them to send you away if that's what you want me to do. You can't close this park. It's illegal. And I have your name, Mr. Pierre, Mr. Blount, and Mr. Handy. You close the park, I'm going to make an official complaint, and I'm going to have my councilman, and I'm going to sue you guys personally. You go get a court order, close the park. You cannot close this park. This is Hershey Tischler from the Just Enough Hershey Show. I'm explaining to them the law, and I want them to know it, and I'm going to call the police right now. Chief Schultz told you to go away. I'm a citizen. You work for me. You cannot close this park legally. Show me a court order. Do you have a court order, Mr. Andy?
Here's the governor's one.
The governor's order ended on June 15th. There's no governor's order. All the other parks. Go ahead. You want to close?
It didn't close.
It did end. Why is 14 and 86th Street open?
It's not. I was actually there.
I saw it open. Don't tell me what you saw. I saw it open.
But I went over there. And
When did you go there? When did you go there?
On Saturday. We closed.
Saturday. It was open yesterday. I'll show you videos. I'll show you 8th Avenue and 65th Street.
Then we'll go there and close it again.
Well, go close it again before you come here. This is a Jewish neighborhood that you've been attacking first.
No.
You must have a court order according to the law. Governor's order or not, you must have a court order. You will not close this park. You have to. Yesterday, the chief told you guys to leave. You are coming back here illegally. Our police officers told you to leave. You must leave.
Like we said before, this is the governor's order. We have to close it. If you wish to contact the police, the governor's office...
Well, right now, it's not a problem. You can contact the police, but you're not closing this place. I'm going to tell you right now. Hershey Tischler from the Just Enough Hershey Show. I will...
So what is it that you're seeing here? And seems like a menial issue. The park being open, the park being closed. But what you're seeing is anger. And you're seeing frustration. You're hearing somebody say, wait a minute, what about that? It's unfair. And when you have a situation where you have unfairness, it's going to breed anger. It's going to breed frustration, which is the reason why so many people are angered at when you see things with police, when you don't know if it's fair or not. When you see the justice system, when you see two people who go before a judge with similar crimes and yet disparaging sentences. It's unfair. It breeds anger. Part of the biggest issue we have in this society and the issue of systemic racism is the aspect of something being fundamentally unfair. If we're able to hold everybody to the same standard, if we're able to say whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Jewish, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, it doesn't matter. These are the rules and this is how we treat you. All of that other things start to go away. I'll share a personal story that happened many years ago. In a program I used to work for, we used to go out on Fridays and play softball during the summer. And we went out with the clients and we'd take them out. But the rule was that in order for you to go, you had to play. You couldn't sit on the side and just watch. And that was the rule of program we had. Well, I went on vacation one week, and I was the one that generally ran this program. I went on vacation one week, and I came back, and we went out to go play. And there was one guy who goes, I'm just going to sit on the side and watch. I said, excuse me, sir, but if you want to play, you have to join. And he goes, no, I don't. And I said, well, no, that's the rule. And he goes, I'm not doing that. Anyway, I said to him, listen, you can't, and you're not going to be getting credit. You're not going to be here when. And he went that. The guy got incredibly angry. He left. And he came back. And basically, he was saying he had a gun and he was going to shoot me for this minor aspect of this. Now, I was very, very confused. I had no idea. I thought he was new. Thought it was his first time there. Thought I was explaining the rule. But because I was on vacation the week before, what I did not realize is one of my colleagues allowed this person to do this. This person didn't see me following a program rule. What this person saw me was, I am picking on him. I am singling him out. I am treating him differently than everybody else. And he made it personal for him. Those small personal things can blow up really quickly. If you treat everybody the same and fairly, and you treat them the same way, you can hold people to standards much easier. When you start making excuses and reasons, or you selectively enforce, you actually create an environment that's actually more dangerous. One of the reasons why I've been very successful with the people I work with is I am very good at that and recognizing that. Most of the people I deal with see me as very fair because I don't treat people any differently. Somebody I like, quote unquote, comes in and they're 5 minutes late. I'm sorry, come to the next group or see somebody outside. Somebody I dislike gets in 3 minutes. I go, great, come on in. Because the rule is 5 minutes. And that's the rule we stick by. And by keeping to those rules, people realize it's just the rules. It's not a matter of anything personal. Then what happens is they're forced to take personal inventory and responsibility. But as soon as you start to see the rule for you is different than the rule for me, or the rule for me is different than the rule for you, now it becomes personalized. Now it builds anger. One of the most beautiful things that we could do right now in a society is try to look at the issues of where we hold people to different standards, where we have this differentiation, and how we could make it more equal across the board. And it would loosen a lot of the emotional tension and stress. Treat people fairly, and they will react in a way that's fair. Treat people unfairly, and they will go to no lengths to the aspect of disparage and be angry and act out. So let's look to ways to try to keep all the rules the same, seeing how you don't create selective enforcement. The rules are the rules. We follow them because they make us safer. And this is the reason why I find it very disheartening when I start hearing people make excuses for specific rules. And the aspect is that we have to figure out a way to understand what those rules are. Sometimes we're going to agree, sometimes we're going to disagree. But if at least they're consistent, the matter of anger will dissipate greatly. I hope that you like this video. You hit like. If you didn't subscribe, please subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to become a patron to this channel, please hit the Subcribe-star link. And I wish you a good night and good mental health.